All right, guys, welcome back to another Predator video. We got a huge mess on our hands here in the garage, but let me go ahead and show you guys what I've done since the last time we met. So the Predator's actually looking pretty damn clean. Cleaned up the plastics, and they're actually white. They cleaned up really nicely. I took all the decals and stuff off. You can kind of see like the ghost print of where they were. There were a bunch of them, man. They were on here. They were on the other side. There was a registration sticker over there. I had one here, and I took those lousy reflectors off. I think it just looks way cleaner without them. I really don't know, Polaris, why? Why do you put? All right, why do you do that? I don't know. So I took those off. We got some more stuff to take off. These things are going to go right away, and of course we got to take the spoiler off because we don't really need a spoiler. This is an atrocity of a grab bar, and it's all about busted up anyways. So I have a new DG on order, as you guys saw in the last video. It's one of those nice fat bars. That should look pretty slick. I haven't received that in the mail just yet. I'm about to take these plastics off and show you a couple things. I did find something that I'm not too happy about, but I'll show you that, guys, in a second. So what we got in these boxes are, right on this side is the Predator. That's going to be the one that we're building. And then on this side is for the Raptor 660. This is the one that John from Stupid Fast is going to be building. Guys, we got to build a better machine. Come on. So I'll show you what I got for the Predator right here off the bat. I got a used exhaust. It's a full DMC Alien. If you guys are familiar with these things, these are like my favorite exhaust from back in the day. DMC Alien's pretty rare, and I was kind of lucky to find this thing on Craigslist. Pick it up for $275 shipped for the full system. Thing looks freaking sweet. It's almost a true exhaust, or a true dual exhaust, but it's not. You got the header, and then it goes into a collector, goes into the single pipe, and then it splits again at the end and comes out into two pipes. Just a super iconic exhaust, and not only does it look cool, that should get us a little bit more flow. Then, of course, we got the chain. That's my favorite chain to run. Got front wheel bearings, tie rod ends in there because the tie rods are a little bit shot. We got the Tusk radiator cap there with a temperature gauge, a oil filter, and there's an OEM skid plate in there because there's no skid plate on this thing, and I'd like to at least put an OEM one on there. Then the Raptor parts are in here. We'll be going over this stuff probably on John's videos, but there's a ton of stuff in here. We got a JE piston that's from BP Racing, and most of these other parts are from Rocky Mountain ATV. So there's a lot more stuff coming on the way. I really ordered a ton of parts. So let me pop these plastics off, and I will show you what's going on underneath. It's kind of a mess. All right, so I got the plastics off, and you guys can see she cleaned up pretty nicely. I mean, seriously, and if you didn't notice, I switched the tires out. I've got the Kenda claws in the back, and I believe these are Maxxis tires in the front. They came off of the 400EX. None of them leak or anything. They have decent tread, and these are kind of interesting tires. They're dual rotation. See, for hard pack, you rotate them that way, and for soft, they go this way. Show you inside the airbox. That thing was pretty gunked up. I'm not sure that we're going to be running this intake tube. I've heard that there are some flow issues with this. A lot of guys just run the box like this, and they have an intake tube from like a Civic or something that comes running down here, and they just kind of put like a K&N style filter or an Uni in there. So this probably won't even be used. The battery was junk. Got rid of that. This spoiler, freaking sweet. And here, oh God, I don't know how I missed this. That steering stem is most definitely bent. I was bragging about how the bars weren't bent. I think it's because it's bent straight back. Like if you turn it on an angle, if it's straight ahead, you kind of can't see. And I didn't pull the tank off when I was looking at this thing. I mean, I still would have bought it. It was a $500 quad. I'd like to replace that. And then the frame is slightly tweaked. You can see the wrinkle right here. And up top, there's like a little bit of a belly. What I plan to do with that is probably put a jack, more than likely right here, because this looks like a very reinforced portion of the frame. I'll put a jack in here and just press up against here, in between here. I should be able to straighten that out, no problem. And then I will gusset this because that's going to become weak, especially from it being bent back and then being bent back forward. That should be no problem to make some gussets for this thing. I'm looking here. I think this is the boot for this. Oh man, that is weird, dude. Like, how does that get down there? And then coming around the back, I'll show you guys the swing arm cleaned up really, really nice. I always like to clean up my stuff before I start working on it because we're going to be pulling this apart and replacing some bearings. These cleaned up really nice as well. There are two cracks in the back here, and I have a feeling that these are common spots for these plastics to crack. It's the area that's attached to the frame. So what I'm planning to do is make an aluminum piece of metal here, run it all the way along here, rivet it on here, and rivet it up here on the plastics. That should reinforce it and actually look pretty clean. The aluminum will be on the underside, and all you'll see is the rivets, up here. That should look just fine. The seat's in really good shape. There's a little bit of a rip here. I don't think that justifies replacing the seat. The rest of it's in really good shape. Tank looks good. The front plastics look good, both under and on top. So I think we're in pretty good shape. The other thing I want to address is the engine. I want to pull that thing apart, clean all of the motor pieces. We'll throw them in the parts cleaner, see what it looks like. I'm going to split the cases, all that stuff, so that we can actually get that bottom end together. Our parts are laid out. We've got the top end over here, the crank back there, some miscellaneous bolts, the clutch, some covers and whatnot. Bottom end is here. Of course, we got our trusty service manual here. Got my list over here so I can start labeling any parts that I noticed that need to be replaced or just are missing in general. Already got 2 things on there. I am a little bit worried about this because I just noticed now that somebody did try to split these cases and they didn't even take the shifter off. It doesn't look like. It's all dirty and muddy. You know, it doesn't even look like they pulled it off and then put it back on. So that is questionable. You can see it's split here. I see some pry marks in there. And then back here, it's nice and tight still. So they obviously were not successful, but that is that is not a good sign. So let's pull this thing apart. All right, guys, so we have all of the components on the clutch and stator side removed. So we kind of got away with no casualties. Well, sort of. I did have a reverse switch right here that actually cracked. It was pretty flimsy. So I'll be ordering another one of those. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and split the cases. Right here, I have my Tusk case splitting tool. You guys can pick these up at RockyMountainATV.com. I will have the links in the description below for these tools, both of the splitting and the crank puller installing tool. So what we're going to do here is find 3 solid points to thread in these studs. You want to thread them in as far as you possibly can because you're going to be putting some force on these and you don't want to rip out the threads. Then these jam nuts can be brought down. I just make them finger tight. Now on our actual tool, we're going to unthread this centerpiece. Not all the way, but just enough so that we can get it around our crank. There we go. That should be good. You want it sitting nice and flush. You can adjust these nuts under here so that you get it sitting nice and flush. And then we're going to thread down these nuts on top. Now we'll thread down our pusher, get all the slack out of it, and then just push this down until the case is split. Oop, there it goes. As you're doing this, you want to try to make sure the cases are coming apart equally. Sometimes just a little bit of encouragement will get it going, just a little bit. You don't want to damage the cases, but you can see, oop, there, probably a dowel or something. I think everything in this case is really tight, probably from sitting for so long. That's the crank. On the other side, oh, actually it's the crank bearing it looks like is coming out. All right, case halves are off. See if we can pull our transmission out of here. We've got an oil screen down here. Be interesting to see what this looks like. Yeah, it's really in there. I'll probably let the oil work its way in here because it's a steel filter. I'd like to reuse that. I don't want to rip this tab off. So in order to get the counterbalancer and the crank out, we'll have to come around the other side. Now we'll use the same crank removal tool. Oh, would you look at that? I really didn't even need this tool. There's our crank. All right, guys, so here's where we're at. Here's the cases. You can see quite a bit of crud underneath. The crank balancer pulled out, and I did get that little oil screen out. I just had to let the oil soak, and then I managed to break it free. Not horrible. You can see the junk in there. That is the magnetic drain plug. We're going to clean these things up, make them look like brand new. We're actually in pretty good shape though. The bearings feel like they're in good condition. Crank bearings feel tight. I will have to pull this crank bearing right here. I just discovered that new crank bearings are not easy to come by. So luckily these feel like they're good bearings. They're nice and tight. So we will be able to reuse them. But I'm really thankful for that because not looking easy to find those. Transmission checks out. Did not see any broken gears, worn dogs or anything. So we got lucky there. The bottom end, everything really does look good. Basically, just everything needs to be cleaned up. I showed the basket in the previous video. There's a little bit of wear on the fingers, but I can smooth that out. It's not beyond repair. We should be pretty good here. So I got the parts washer ready. I'm going to throw the stuff in the parts washer and just get to cleaning. As far as the head goes and everything, I'm just going to pull that apart. It's already been loosened up and everything. And then these other pieces, same thing. I mean, they're already apart. Oh my God, these things are so cruddy. So yeah, let's get to cleaning these things. All right, guys, it's the next day. These parts actually cleaned up pretty well, especially these covers. They really don't look bad at all. Head cleaned up pretty nicely. And even the inside of the cases here are really clean. I'm really happy with that. The outside, we've got some crud on them. We're gonna take care of that right now. These things work really well for cleaning up cases. I don't have a vapor blaster or sandblaster or anything, so it's kind of like the poor man's way of doing it. I'll be using that and a Dremel. We'll see if we can clean them up, make them look like brand new. So that knocked out some of the big stuff. You can see this ain't gonna be like show quality or nothing, but this isn't supposed to be a show quality quad or full build or anything. And now what I'm gonna do is take these little Scotch-Brite attachments for the Dremel. I'm just gonna go around and get all the little details and stuff. Like I said, I ain't gonna get everything. It's gonna look a hell of a lot better than it did. They cleaned up pretty nice. They're not perfect. You know, I missed a couple spots and I can't get in all the grooves and stuff. But like I was saying before, this is not supposed to be a show quad or a full build or anything. But I do like getting that brownish turd color off because it just looks like crap. But these cleaned up really, really nice. Once this is together, this is going to look really good when it's in the frame. All of the dowels were stuck. And I'm going to be replacing all of these. You can see this is one of the nicer ones that didn't get jimmied up that bad. And that's just gasket sealer on it. But this one... This was my favorite one right here. This probably took about an hour to get out. This thing was seized so bad. Every single one of these things was seized. You got to put anti-seize on these things when you put them back together, otherwise that happens. All right, guys, check it out. I actually just got this really nice piece of granite. This is awesome for surfacing things because it is perfectly flat. Now, this case right here is already done. You can see the surfaces are beautiful on this thing. But because these cases were so nicked up, you can see right here where it was, you know, the guy tried prying it apart and stuff. And they were kind of warped a little bit, it seemed like, just very slightly. I'm not really sure, but because they're in such bad shape, I really wanted to see how bad they are. So this case, I took a blue Sharpie and just marked up all the surfaces. And what I'm going to do is just make a light pass, and we should be able to see where all of the low spots and high spots are and see how bad these cases are. Well, that's really not good. You can see right here is a high spot, so we're low up here. All these blue spots, it didn't even touch the outside of the case. A little bit right here it started taking it down here, up here. You can see definitely needs to be surfaced. In here were high spots. These both got smoothed out. So I'll take it down just a little bit more. That was just a very small pass, and you can see how much it took off. So we should be able to get that off and have no problems at all. All right, check that out. That should be good. I don't see any blue spots. Like right here, you can see those were pry marks. We're not going to get those out. You want to take your time when you do this and check it frequently, because if you take too much off, the cases will be ruined. So not putting any pressure on these things. It's really just the weight of the case as I'm spinning it around. But these cases should be good to go now. Did both sides. These things needed a doctor, man. These things were messed up. These are nice and flush now. These cases look great. They actually came out pretty good. They're not perfect, but those little Scotch-Brite wheels really do a great job cleaning up. Now moving on to the head, I cleaned the face of it up. The back of it and stuff I still have to clean up. I pulled the valves out, and you guys can probably see, got some bent valves. See if you guys can see this here. They're bent, bro. So we will be ordering new Kibblewhite valves. Luckily, the head appears to be okay. The valve seats don't look like they have any abnormal wear or anything. And the porting on this is actually quite good from the factory. I can tell it hasn't been ported because you can see casting marks. But the ports actually don't look that bad, like compared to the 400EX. This actually looks pretty good. So I will be porting this though. I have the exhaust systems right here. This is the OEM header. A lot of people were saying to run the OEM header, they actually perform really well. People were saying they're better than aftermarket. And this is one of the, one portion of the header from the DMC Alien exhaust. So what I did is measured the inner diameter of each system. I want to see how much flow we're getting. About, we'll say 29.5 millimeters. And then the DMC Alien has a much nicer finish on the inside. It's just over 32 millimeters. It's about a 3 millimeter difference. That's a pretty sizable difference. So what I'm going to be doing is porting these exhaust ports. So let's measure the exhaust ports, just under 31 millimeters. So we'll be able to open these up about 2 millimeters to make them match that DMC header. Get a little bit more flow out of these things. We'll clean up the casting marks. And I'm just going to open the ports up in general, get a little bit more flow. In here, beyond the valve seats, you can see like this little ridge here. We're going to get rid of that. Any unsmoothness in here, you can feel the lumps. You guys aren't going to be able to see it, but there's edges and ridges in here. I'm going to smooth all that stuff out because I want it to be nice and smooth flowing. But this, like this ridge here, you can see, that's all going to be gone. It'll be nice and smooth. And on the intake, it looks pretty nice. But I'm going to open these tubes up all the way, get rid of the casting marks. I'm going to soften out this edge in the center here and round that just slightly. The intake boot is slightly larger than the port. I can take a marker, mark that, pull this off, and then open this up so it matches the intake port. But I'm actually going to open this up just a hair. This is like a hard plastic. I'm going to take a mini flapper disc and just open this up just a tad. And then I'll put this on here, take a Sharpie, mark how big it is, and then I'll open this port up to that size as well. All right, now I'm gonna be using this new porting tool that I just picked up. This is the first time I'll ever be using this tool. It is very similar to the tool that I used at Dave Moore's when Dave was teaching me how to port. It's got a little pedal here, and you can adjust the speed of the tool. It's pretty neat. So this, I've got different bits and everything. This should make porting that cylinder a breeze. Now, I've never actually ported a Predator head. So you Predator guys, if you're engine builders out there, you can hit me in the comments below. But I think what I'm going to do here is going to make a pretty good difference. So I've done a couple heads. I've done a couple 400EXs. So I'm not going to do a tutorial or anything because I just don't think I know enough about porting to be giving out information like that and doing tutorials. So I'm just going to kind of get after it here. And I got the sheet on me because the metal shavings kind of get out of control. All right, guys, check it out. Cylinder head is complete. Got our ports all ported out. You can see the intake side. I did notice a little spot here that I missed. I'll have to go back in and get that. But I opened these up quite a bit. I smoothed out the exhaust side, and I'm leaving the intake side a little bit rough, but it's still pretty smooth to the touch. The exhaust side is just a little bit smoother. I opened up these exhaust ports about 2.5 millimeters. They're about 32.5 millimeters, which is about the exact size of the inner diameter of our DMC Alien exhaust. Show you the intake here. I opened this up probably 4 millimeters, I would say. And like I said, I opened this up there just a tiny little bit. I have to clean this off yet. But when this is on here, they match up perfectly. So that should open up the airway just a little bit. And then of course I went and surfaced this thing. I will be cleaning up the valve seats with some valve grinding compound, but we can't do that because we have bent valves. So for now, the cylinder head is good to go. All right, guys, so that's gonna about wrap it up for today. A lot of work getting these cases into the condition that they are right now, porting the cylinder and everything. Just a lot of work going into this, but you know, this is really when you take your time and do stuff the right way, this should make a really good, reliable quad that's gonna last us a long time. And hopefully we get some badass performance out of it. I'm hoping that port work that I did matches up really nicely with the combination that I'm planning to do. I've got a couple things in store that I haven't mentioned. I've been changing some stuff up, and I think we're gonna get really good flow in the top end and hopefully make some high horsepower with this 560 kit. Now I did order some crank bearings. Unfortunately, almost every single place that I've looked online, that's just a discontinued part. And unfortunately, I got an email back from the company that I ordered the bearings from saying that they were discontinued and they canceled my order. So I'm having trouble getting crank bearings. Luckily, the ones that are in there they feel good. I would just really like to replace them. I found a substitute that might work. I'm gonna see what happens, but that's the status on the crank bearings. So until the big bore kit shows up and some of the other motor parts, we're gonna set the motor aside and we're gonna focus on the body. In the next video, we'll be taking the rear end apart. We'll do the swing arm bearings, the carrier bearings. We gotta take care of the hub bearings. There's a lot of bearings and stuff that's needed to be replaced on this thing. We can straighten out the frame. Luckily, I was able to get a new steering stem from PSN. That is a company that is it's a salvage yard. They've got tons of ATV parts and stuff. If you guys are looking for like weird Frankenstein parts or stuff for like a Predator, discontinued parts, definitely want to check those guys out. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Please give me a thumbs up if you've been enjoying this content. Remember to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. If that bell isn't clicked, you won't get alerted when I get new videos up. I appreciate all of you guys. If you guys are looking for more content in the meantime, definitely check out Stupid Fast John. You can see what he's doing to the Raptor 660. He will be doing all the work on that machine. We've been doing a bunch of stuff with those too. So I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to check out the Quad Wars t-shirts. There's a Predator shirt that's going to be coming out probably by the next episode. So I will see you guys then. Peace out.